A reading from the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus said, "Ask, and it will be given you. Search, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who searches finds, and for everyone who knocks the door will be opened. Is there anyone among you who, if your child asks for bread, will give a stone? Or if the child asks for a fish, will give a snake? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts, good things to those who ask him? In everything, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets." Jesus, continuing in his teaching in the Sermon on the Mount, these are actually kind of in our printed version look like two different ideas. The first one being that we should ask for what we want, and we should trust that God is at least a good a parent as any of us, and that God is just as capable of hearing God's beloved children's requests and responding to those appropriately. But we do not always ask for what we want, do we? At least I know that I don't, because we just insist on having some sort of framework in our minds about what's a reasonable request or what is likely to be granted. And if we think it's possible that our request will not be acknowledged or granted by God or by anybody, we tend to just take the easy way out and not ask, because somehow it's easier to risk whatever else befalls us than to risk asking and not having something given to us. That is some sort of, I think, universal fear of rejection or fear of failure or fearing discovering we're not loved enough for someone to grant what we've asked. But Jesus is very directly saying here, ask God for what you want from God. Trust God to be at least as loving as the average human parent, and acknowledging there are plenty of human parents who are actually not nice and would give their children a snake instead of a bird or whatever Jesus said. But assuming that we can impute to God at least the same level of love and care that we do to most human parents, Jesus is saying, take a risk and ask God for what you want. The second part of today's reading is just a little standalone phrase, but it's Jesus saying, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And this is worth commenting on, I think, especially in the context of Lent, because he says, this is the law and the prophets. Well, almost, Jesus, but it's actually the way that Jesus phrases this, and I'm not correcting Jesus, but I'm drawing our attention to the fact that in all other world religions to this point, this idea of the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, as we have kind of internalized it in our culture, it was not that. It was in the negative. It was, do not do to others what you would not have them do to you, what you would have them not do to you. Do not do to others those things that you don't want done to you. And so this idea that Jesus, it's subtle, but it actually takes on really profound resonances in our life if we take Jesus at his word and take the positive framing of that golden rule. And think about in our own lives again, especially as we're through this season of Lent, and part of our work is to be diagnostic about how it is that we are being in the world. Are we living the life that's worthy of the gift that's been given to us in it? Are we doing with it what God would have us do? Are we even doing with it what we would like to do? Forget God for a minute, but are we living life the way we'd like to live it? And for me, those are different questions about doing unto. Am I good at not being mean? Let's just for shorthand it, not being awful to other people. That is not hard for me to do. It's actually hard for me to get the interest up to be mean to somebody. So not being mean, not doing to others what I would not have them do to me is actually a kind of a low bar for many of us, I think. But doing to others that which I would like for them to do to me, for me, with me? That's sort of a different question, and I think is a much more challenging one. It's worth thinking through what that would look like in your life, that difference of not being negative as opposed to being positive towards other people. I think it's worth, as we continue our Lenten exercises, or our Lenten journey, our Lenten spiritual practices, to think about that distinction that Jesus has made, of thinking about what it means to positively be with others in the way that we would prefer them to be with us, and think about what that raises for you, what kind of growth opportunities that might bring forward in your life, this Lenten journey, and see what God might make of that with you this day. And again, back to that first teaching, remember to ask God for what you want. Jesus says it's worth the risk. May God be with you this day. May God bless you and keep you this day and always. Amen.